The Astonishing Adventures of Amy Bock, New Zealand's mistress of disguise and deception. Imagine a wedding in a quiet New Zealand town. The groom is dashing, generous, and the talk of the community. The bride is smitten, her family cautiously optimistic. But within days, the truth bursts forth. A detective at the door reveals the groom is not only a fraud, but a woman in disguise. This is not a plot from Victorian fiction, but the true story of Amy Bock, the con artist who shocked a nation, seduced a small town, and left an indelible mark on New Zealand's criminal history. From Tasmania to New Zealand, the birth of a trickster. Amy Maud Bock was born in 1859 in Hobart, Tasmania, into a respectable family with strong educational values. Her father was a schoolmaster and her mother a teacher, and Amy herself showed early signs of intelligence and creativity. But from a young age, Amy felt herself an outsider, more interested in play acting and storytelling than the constraints of Victorian womanhood. In the 1880s, Amy moved to New Zealand, a land still full of opportunity, and for someone with her talents, ripe for reinvention. She tried her hand at teaching and domestic work, but struggled to hold steady employment. The pattern was set. Amy would ingratiate herself, borrow or steal money, then vanish before her lies caught up with her, a talent for masquerade. What set Amy Bock apart from other petty criminals was her remarkable gift for performance. She could become anyone, anywhere, a governess, a wealthy widow, a nurse, or a visiting VIP. She forged letters of introduction, invented relatives, and even posed as the daughter of prominent local citizens. Her scams were often so elaborate, and her acting so convincing, that even those who suspected her found themselves charmed. Amy's early swindles were bold, but relatively small scale. She would rent a room, claim her luggage was delayed, and then disappear, leaving unpaid bills behind. Sometimes she would take on respectable jobs, only to abscond with wages or valuables. Over the years, her arrests and court appearances added up, but her audacity only grew. Third, the making of Percy Redwood. It was in South Otago in 1909 that Amy Bock orchestrated her greatest and most infamous con. By then nearly 50, she had run through most of her old tricks and was known to authorities as a repeat offender. But no one could have predicted her next move. Arriving in the small town of Port Molyneux, Amy assumed the identity of Percy Redwood, a wealthy and charming sheep farmer from the North Island. With a dapper mustache, tailored suits, and a confident swagger, Percy turned heads and quickly became the talk of the district. Redwood was generous to a fault, buying gifts for neighbors and treating friends to lavish meals, all on credit, of course. Redwood soon set his sights on Agnes Ottaway, the daughter of a respected local family. Agnes was young, impressionable, and thrilled by the attention of the sophisticated stranger. Redwood showered her with compliments and presents, and within weeks, the two were courting. But Agnes's family had their doubts. Who was this mysterious sheep farmer with no visible flock, no land, and an endless supply of charm? Gavor, the phantom mother, and the wedding ruse. Sensing the Ottaway's skepticism, Amy Bock's imagination kicked into high gear. Percy suddenly had a wealthy, aristocratic mother in Auckland, Mrs. Redwood, who soon began sending letters to Agnes's mother, vouching for her son's wealth and character. The letters, full of lavish praise and promises of inheritance, were of course written by Amy herself, but they did the trick. The Ottaway's doubts eased. The wedding was planned in a flurry of excitement. The entire community turned out for the ceremony, charmed by the enigmatic Percy Redwood and delighted by the prospect of a union between two well-to-do families. On April 21st, 1909, Percy and Agnes were married in a local church. The celebrations were grand with music, food, and dancing late into the night. Only Amy Bock knew the truth. She was marrying as a man, and every detail was a lie. Unraveling the illusion. The honeymoon was short-lived. Within days, unpaid bills began piling up around town. Merchants who had extended credit to the generous Percy Redwood discovered that he was nowhere to be found. Rumors swirled and suspicions mounted. How could a man of means be so broke so quickly? It was Agnes's own family who contacted the police. A detective arrived at the Ottaway home and confronted Percy Redwood. Under questioning, Percy finally confessed, and Amy Bock, New Zealand's most notorious con artist, was unmasked. The revelation stunned the community and made headlines across the country. The story had everything: romance, deception, and a shocking twist. Newspapers dubbed Amy the woman who married another woman, and her exploits became the talk of every parlor and pub. The trial of the century. Amy Bock's trial was a sensation. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, hoping for a glimpse of the infamous swindler. Inside, Amy admitted everything: fraud, forgery, and false pretenses. She explained how she had forged letters, purchased gifts on credit, and impersonated Percy Redwood down to the smallest detail. Her defense was as theatrical as her crimes. Amy insisted she had no malicious intent. She only wanted to be loved and to create a happier life for herself. She described herself as a victim of circumstance, a woman driven to extremes by loneliness and poverty. The judge was unmoved. Amy Bock was found guilty on multiple counts, and at age 49, became the first woman in New Zealand to be officially declared a habitual criminal. She was sentenced to several years in prison. 7th, life after Percy Redwood. Most criminals, after such a public downfall, would retire quietly. Not Amy Bock. After serving her sentence, she continued to reinvent herself, moving from town to town and adopting new personas. She pulled off minor cons, posing as a governess, a traveling nurse, or a wealthy widow, but was often recognized and arrested. Despite her record, Amy rarely resorted to violence or outright theft. Her crimes were crimes of imagination, letters, disguises, and social engineering. She seemed to delight in the art of performance, taking pleasure in the chase as much as the reward. Amy died in Auckland in 1943 at the age of 84. By then, she was a figure of local legend, both reviled and admired for her cunning, her creativity, and her refusal to be limited by the roles assigned to women in her era. 8. The legacy of Amy Bock. Amy Bock's story remains one of the most astonishing in New Zealand's history. She was a pioneer in the art of the con, a woman who used wit, disguise, and audacity to outsmart a society that underestimated her. Her masquerade as Percy Redwood, in particular, challenged Victorian ideas about gender, marriage, and respectability. In a way, Amy was both a product and a critic of her time. She exposed the vulnerabilities of a society obsessed with appearances and eager to believe a charming stranger. She forced communities to question their assumptions about trust, identity, and the boundaries of the possible. Today, Amy Bock's story is still told in books, plays, and even songs. Her life is a testament to the power of reinvention, the dangers of credulity, and the enduring allure of the confidence trick. In the end, Amy Bock reminds us that every town has its secrets, every stranger their story, and every mask a lesson waiting to be learned. Her legacy endures not just as a cautionary tale, but as a celebration of wit, audacity, and the eternal human hunger for something more.